Hey everybody, this is Felix and Darren with Tycor Title, and you're with us for Real Estate Hot Take. Darren, take it away.
So today, guys, we've got a great set of guests. First of all, we're going to speak to the owner of Arrowhead Capital, Dustin Bingaman. Dustin, thank you for jumping on today. Dustin, it's been a while since you've been on, but I'm interested to hear with all that's going on in the market, like what's going on with the rates right now. How are other things affecting the rates? And yeah, go ahead, Dustin. Give us what's going on.
Gotcha, man. So thank you for having me. Just to give you a little insight here, the things that are happening are still wildly fun as it relates to real estate interest rates. The biggest movers that we have right now is the Fed is announced that it's time to move rates. So we've already seen pricing move upwards of 0.5%. Essentially what that means is the markets are pre-estimating what they think that rate cut is going to be, and we're already seeing that effective on rate sheets now. So we're seeing conventional rates with excellent credit, low sixes, just depending on scenario. We're seeing FHA rates in the high fives again, so that's fun to see. As far as like, how does the Fed saying that they're going to cut rates have an impact on us? Let's say that the Fed comes out next month and they decide to only move the rates a quarter. Adversely, that's actually going to have a negative impact on us, and we're going to see rates actually jump because the market's already pricing in for at least a half, upwards of 3/4 for a first rate adjustment. So, I mean, rates are at a spot. I can tell you on my end, when we were at 7.25 on conventional loans, we were pretty quiet. It was people who had a necessity to move. Very few people were moving the needle themselves because they wanted to become a homeowner. At that spot, it becomes a lot tougher. You start looking at that same exact $600,000 mortgage, and now you're talking about upwards of a $500 difference in payment for a full percent movement, 1.25% range. So yeah, I mean, I like to see where we're going with the market. There's a lot of indicators that say this is well overdue. Consumer debt index is one of those. Our consumer debt index as a country is at an all-time high right now. I would love to say that that's because consumer spending is really high. I was recently in Scottsdale, and we walked through the mall. I was with my family, and I remember turning around to my wife, and I was like, it's crazy that this place is as packed as it is, and the economy is struggling as much as it is. And about 20 minutes later, I remember walking and looking, I said, notice everyone's in the mall and no one has a bag. No one's buying anything. So people are out and about to move, but I don't see these high-end bougie malls that are moving stuff as frequently as they once were. So most of our consumer debt index that we're dealing with right now, with it being so high, is over inflation. And inflation is really what the killer has been. So that's why I think that this move is probably at least a solid year overdue. But with the election on the horizon, I mean, you can't help but say either candidate wants to move the market and help consumers be able to borrow money at a lower rate. So we're heading the right direction. I think a 0.5% decrease in the first one. I think that we could see another full point in the next 12 months, just with what we're doing with inflation and everything else. So they're positives. These are great signs for us as consumers and people that have felt like they're tied to the existing mortgage that they have. Like, I need to buy another house. Our family is growing. Our situation has changed, but the tie to that 2 or 3 or even 4% interest rate has people feel like they're just like
locked in.
I can't yet. It's so expensive. So I think that we're definitely going to continue to see a lot of the people that have been on the sidelines with pre-approvals become much more active here in the short term. Probably see more multiple offer situations and stuff like that. But we'll let Krystle talk about all that stuff.
So just real quick though, so on the, anyone that's purchased in the last 12, 18 months, then you're starting to see those people come back around through your pipeline, and maybe potentially refinances are on the horizon?
Yeah, I would say that about 20% of our pipeline right now is refis from people that we've worked with over the last year and a half, being able to help them. And here's the crazy thing about rates, right? If they borrowed at 7% to move to 6.5% is justifiable. But if you were at 4% to move to 3.5%, it probably wasn't nearly as justifiable because you weren't seeing the big swings in payments. So the higher the rate is, the more likely you are to be able to make a positive improvement with a 0.5%, where prior to we were probably 3/4 to a full percent was the necessary movement. But you also have to look at just, there's two factors when you look at a refinance for any consumer. One is how much am I saving every month? And the second one, which I think is equally as important, is how much more of my money every month is going to principal. So if you have $150 more going to principal and you're saving $200 a month, that's technically a $350 positive swing for the consumer. So yeah, we are seeing that pick up a little bit, but I think it will definitely pick back up, and you'll probably see people. I don't know if we're ever going to see 4% again, but if we do, you'll see people write it down from 7 to 6 and 6 to 5.5 and 5.5 to 4 3/4. So you'll see some movement there for sure.
Thank you, Dustin. Go ahead, Felix.
Yeah, man, thank you so much for that. I'd like to introduce Krystle Roth with Roth Real Estate Group. And
Krystle Roth Pruitt.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
right.
Krystle Roth Pruitt with Roth Real Estate Group, right? So hey,
Yep.
Krystle, we want to know what's going on in your area. We know that you cover everywhere, but Redlands is more of your hub. So what's going on in Redlands
Yep.
right now in the market?
Oh, in line exactly as Dustin was just talking about. We are seeing a lot more people want to jump back in. They're hesitant though. They're very picky. So if you're putting a home on the market right now, the sweet spot is probably between 600 and 700. That's where everybody's trying to stay. Like, it's crazy to think that's an average for our area now. Like, a small house downtown Redlands is almost 6. A medium house, you know, with a pool or even without a pool is going to run you between 650 and 7. So when clients are looking in those price points, they're still running across multiple offers and competition. Another thing that's come into play nowadays is compensation for agents. So that's been the talk of the town. So what we're seeing, what I'm seeing on both sides of it as a listing agent, compensation hasn't gone away, FYI. We're just seeing people put it in their offer now, whereas before it was broker to broker and it wasn't talked about in the offers. Now it's buyer to seller, and seller says, yeah, I'm willing to offer that, or no, I'm not willing to offer it, just like you would have for closing costs. If you can cover it yourself, you probably are going to net that seller more. You should do that. If you can't and you need to ask the seller for help with your closing costs or help with your agent's compensation, then you can do that too now. So we're seeing a lot more offers come through that are requesting that. So a lot of sellers, when I go on listing appointments, are like, oh, I hear I don't have to pay that anymore. I'm like, you never had to pay it, but you did, because you knew that got you the largest pool of buyers because you were, you know, offering that to their agent. So it's not like you ever had to, it was just encouraged. And so at this point, we're running into sellers who are still, in the most part, still offering that, because they want the greatest opportunity at the most amount of buyers being able to show their property and move forward. Most buyers were not used to having to do that themselves. And so it kind of takes them out of a certain market if they have to now, you know, collect additional funds for that when they didn't plan on that. So something for sellers to keep in mind. You never had to do it, but do you still want to? It will open up your buyer pool if you choose to do so. On the flip side, I've had really well-priced homes, like investment properties, and we, you know, were not requested compensation. The buyers covered that for themselves, and the sellers were happy to move forward in that route. So every now and then we're seeing where a buyer is covering it themselves and not requesting that of the seller. But for the most part, most buyers are still incorporating that in with their offer. And in a lot of cases, they're just offering more to cover that. They're basically financing that for themselves. And as far as market is concerned, like I said, we're seeing multiple offers between that 650 and 700 mark. If you've got a 3 or 4 bedroom house in any sort of a south side of Redlands, it's going to have multiple bids between 650 and 7. I feel like I get a call a day from agents, from buyers, like, do you have anything coming up? That's how I know we don't have enough inventory, because they're shopping. I'm getting calls on my pending properties right now. Like, hey, what's going on with that? Is it going well? Like, if it's going to fall out, can you let me know? So that tells me we do not have enough inventory. And guys, what do you think is going to happen if we're already in that position with rates at 6.5? With the Fed announcing that they're only slated to go down, it's only going to get worse. So Krystle Roth Pruitt's advice to everybody is get in now while you can, while you don't have the explosion of people like we did in 2020 and 2021 with lines out the door and people overbidding and removing their appraisal contingency. Get in now, get the house you love, marry the house, state the rate, as most lenders would say. And that way, guess what? Just like Dustin said, you can go refi later and you have your dream home and you're not stressed out on whether you're going to bid too much or lose the house. You've got the house. You married. Good job.
Yeah.
What Krystle said right there really takes us back to like the 2012, 2013 markets coming out of the foreclosure boom where people lost and then you had properties hit the market. Those were literally summers of like $100,000. If you bought in March, April, by August, your house was worth $75,000 to $100,000 more than what you had paid for it. And we had people that were refinancing just to get rid of mortgage insurance because the values had jumped that much that quickly. So
which is highly unusual. That's not customary.
It's not typical, but in a low inventory market, you're going to see those could easily be the case with the number of people that are trying to re-enter. And the part that sucks is those are people that could have had that equity earned, even though they may have sacrificed that additional $300, $400 a month for the short term, knowing where we're heading.
True.
So it's just things to consider in there.
Yeah, for sure.
One other thing that I just wanted to bring to light, I thought was really important, since we introduced Krystle Roth and she politely corrected you to Krystle Roth Pruitt.
Felix.
I don't know if you saw all 3 times, but she might have flashed that ginormous rock that Mr. Pruitt put on her finger, and I definitely caught that in the video. Did you guys see that? She was like, Pruitt, yeah, there it is again. You got it.
Probably did a good
He's
job.
proud of me.
Congratulations, Krystle.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on today. We're going to link Krystle and Dustin's information. And so if you do need to contact any of them, feel free to go ahead and reach out to them personally. Thank you guys again. This was Real Estate Hot Take, and we'll look forward to speaking to you guys later on in the year.
Gentlemen, thank
Thanks
you,
for having
Krystle.
us.
Always a pleasure, kid.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
See you guys.